Good morning, children. Sai Ram. So, welcome back to our science class. Today, we are going to continue our lesson. Chapter 4, Sorting Materials into Groups. So, children, let's begin. Now, let us now understand how do we decide which material should be used for which object. In the topic properties of materials. Now, in the previous video, we learned that objects around you are made of many different materials. Now children, have you ever thought why glass is not made of cloth? Yes, why it is not made with a piece of cloth? Yes, if we make the glass with a piece of cloth, it would not be silly. So, if we were to make a tumbler out of cloth, what we need for a tumbler is glass, plastic, metal, or other such materials that will hold water. So it will be very silly because cloth does not hold the water. Similarly, it would not be wise to use paper-like materials for cooking vessels. So we have to select the material for which purpose we are going to use. So we select the material depending upon the properties and the purpose of which the object is to be used. So what are all the properties of materials that would be important for their usage? So we are going to discuss some of the properties. Now this activity I had explained already in the previous video. Since the cloth has holes in that, the water cannot be this. It cannot hold the water. And for the liquid items, glass holds the liquid items. So this we already learnt in the previous chapter. Now let's go ahead and learn about the properties of materials. So here I have shown you some of the properties of materials. That is appearance, hardness, transparency, solubility in water, flotation density. It's nothing but floating. So let us now start with the appearance. Appearance means what? What we see. What we see. So what are the things we see? We can see shiny materials. Some things are not shining. Some things are very hard. Some things are very soft. Right. Now we are going to learn about the appearance first. So appearance is divided into two, lustrous and non-lustrous. Lustrous means the thing which are shining. For example, gold and silver. And non-lustrous that are not shining. For example, wood and cardboard. So metals, that is materials that have luster, are usually metals. They are made of metals like gold, silver, iron, copper, aluminium. are the examples of metals that are shining. That is called lustrous. Lustrous is nothing but shining things, metals. So some metals often lose their shine. So some metals often lose their shine like gold, copper, iron, all that. Why they lose the shine? Because of the action of the air and moisture on them. So if you keep the copper material, that is copper pot, if you keep it outside, so that shining will not be seen. It is because the action of air and the moisture on them. So it becomes non-lustrous. So we therefore notice the luster only on their freshly cut surface or after cleaning. So when you clean the gold, so for example, earring that is made of gold or necklace which is made of gold, after we use several times, when it is kept outside, it becomes little blackish gold. So when you clean them, when you polish them, this silver also, when we clean or polish them, it looks very fresh, it looks so shining. So children, when you visit an ironsmith or a workshop, so look out for the freshly cut surface of metal rods to see if they have luster. So when we go to the gold shop, we can see the jewelry which is very shining. But what we have at home, that is not that much shining. It is because of the air and the moisture present on them. And in the shop, it is freshly made pieces. Now let us learn about the hardness. So the word itself describes that hard, the things which are hard. We cannot press the things. So that is called hard. And soft is we can easily compress and we can easily press it. That is called soft. So it's easy to understand. So when you press different materials with your hands, some of them may be hard to compress while the others can be easily compressed. So take a metal key and try to scratch the surface of the piece of wood or aluminium. Take a wooden piece or an aluminium piece and take the key and just scratch it. So what happens? So we can see some marks on that. And take some chalk or candle or any other material or object. So you can easily scratch some materials while some cannot be scratched so easily. So children, materials which can be compressed or scratched easily are called soft. While some other materials which are difficult to compress are called hard. So for example, cotton and sponge. These are soft materials, while the iron or stone is hard materials. So the example of hard is stone, iron. So example of soft is sponge or cotton. Now let's move into the transparency. So what is transparency? Transparency means if you take anything and if you place in front of your face, so you can see the things which is opposite very clearly. That is called transparency. For example, glass. So do you have a window glass at home? Yes. So why do we keep window pane made of glass? Because we can see the opposite side what is there, right? So that is called transparency or transparent. Now, you might have played the game of hide and seek. So, do you all like to play hide and seek? Yes, we all play hide and seek. So, think of some places where you would like to hide so that you are not seen by others, right? So, we go and hide it in some places that which are not seen by others. So, why did you choose those places? Would you have tried to hide behind a glass window? So you can hide it behind the glass window also. Yes, obviously we don't choose a glass window to hide ourselves because our friends can see through that and spot you, right? So we choose a place where others cannot see. Okay, now you can see through all materials. Can you see through all materials? No, absolutely not. So if you take a notebook, can you see through it? No. So those substances or materials through which things can be seen are called transparent. So materials that allow all light to pass through. Materials that allow all light to pass through. So example, window glass, water, air and some plastics. So these are the example of transparent materials. So have you ever thought why shopkeepers use glass? Yes, glass boxes to keep his things, yours. Why did the shopkeeper use this? Because shopkeeper usually prefer to keep biscuits, sweets and other eatables in transparent containers. So why he prefers the transparent containers or the plastic containers? So you can see some plastic containers also. So children, why did the shopkeeper prefers that? Because so that the buyers can easily see through these items. Yes, we can see what is in this container, what is in that container, how it is looking, how much fresh it is, which one you like. So it is easy to see through this glass containers. So shopkeepers, they use the glass containers or the plastic containers, right? So it is very easy. So it is very transparent. On the other hand, there are some materials which you are not able to see. So these materials are called as opaque. So the things which you can see through it are called transparent and the things which you cannot see through it are called opaque. Now you cannot tell what is kept in a closed wooden box, a cardboard carton or a metal container, right? So wood, cardboard and metals are the example of opaque materials, are the example of opaque materials. Now let us go to translucent. So what is the meaning of translucent? So this activity we have already done in our previous chapter, in the food chapter. So we had spread some oil in the paper and yes, so when we place them in front of the light, we can see through it, right? This materials we have, activity we have already done in the previous chapter. So what is translucent? Materials that allow some light to pass through. The materials that allow only some light, not very clearly. It allows only some light to pass through. So example, tissue paper or some oiled patched paper, right? Now what we will do is take a sheet of paper. Take a sheet of paper and look through it towards a lighted bulb. So switch on the light, take a sheet of paper and look through the paper. So children, make a note of your observation. What can you see and how can you see? Then now put 2-3 drops of some oil and spread it in that sheet of paper. So this is the sheet of paper before you put the oil. Now this is after you put the oil. Now look again towards the lighted bulb, that the portion of the paper on which oil has been spread. So you have to look through where oil has been spread. Now can you see clearly through the oiled paper? Is everything on the other side is visible? Perhaps not, because the materials through which the objects can be seen but not clearly. The objects can be seen but not clearly. So it is called translucent. It is known as translucent. So remember the oily patch on paper when we tested the food items for the presence of fats. So that was translucent too. Can you think of some more examples of translucent materials? Yes. Now, yes, this already, as I explained, what is called opaque. So materials that does not allow any light to pass through, that is called opaque. Example, cardboard, wood or a metal container. So you can take the aluminum sheet of foil paper or any cardboard or any book, just you can place it in front of your face and just observe whether you can see the opposite whatever is present. So if you cannot see those things, that is called opaque. Yes. Now there is an activity to find whether the metal is lustrous or not. So for that, you should collect a piece of different materials like paper, cardboard, wood or copper wire. So aluminum sheet or chalk. So do any of these appear shiny? So you will take paper, cardboard, wood, copper things or copper wire, aluminum sheet or chalk. So do any of these appear shiny? So separate the shiny materials into groups. Now you observe. Now let's take a aluminum rod or the iron rod. So iron rods are easily available at home. So when we take the iron rod and we'll make it into two pieces. So the piece which looks freshly and shiny. Now, the iron rod which is present in our home, for you must be having the window. So, in the windows, you must be seeing the iron rods, right? So, you take a salt paper and just rub it on that. So, what can you observe is the iron rods become shiny, that is lustrous. So, when you rub the surface of the material with sandpaper, so we can test that whether it has luster or not. So when you take a piece of chalk and take the sandpaper and rub it, so what happens? So the shining is there? No. So to find the appearance of the materials, whether it is lustrous or non-lustrous, we can use the sandpaper to find whether the material is shiny or not. So any materials if you take, and when we use the sandpaper to rub against that, we can confirm that the material is lustrous or non-lustrous. So children, in today's chapter, we learnt about the properties of materials, and that is appearance, hardness, transparency, solubility in water, and flotation density. Now, we covered appearance, hardness, and transparency, translucent, and opaque. Now, in the next video, we'll be learning what is solubility in water and what is flotation density. Now, let us quickly revise what we learned now. We learned first about the appearance, which is shining and not shining. That is lustrous and non-lustrous. So, to find out the lustrous material, we can use the sandpaper to rub against that and find the material which is shining or not shining. Next, we learned about the hardness. So, when we take a iron key and scratch on other materials like stone or sponge, so you can easily scratch on this, but the hard materials we cannot scratch. So the thing which cannot scratch are called as hard materials. That is, we cannot press, we cannot compress also. In the soft materials we can easily compress. So for example, for the soft material is sponge and the cotton, and here we have many things for the hard materials. And we also learnt about the transparency, the things, the materials that allows all light to pass through, that is called transparency. So you can easily remember the transparent example, the glass containers or and the glass which we use to keep the liquid. And translucent is, so we did this activity in a plain sheet of paper and with the some oil drop. Yes, after you put some oil drops in the paper, only some lights it allows to pass through. That is called translucent. That the things which are not clear to see through that oil patches. So if you see through that oil patches, the lights or the materials or the things we see in the opposite directions are not clear. So for example, glass window also, if some water drop is there, so that we cannot see clearly, that is called translucent. And what is opaque? It does not allow any light to pass through. So example, cardboard, wood, or a metal container, or the aluminum sheet, anything. So that is called opaque, which does not pass through any light. And children, will end this session here, and in the next lesson let's learn about the solubility in water and the flotation density. So assignment is given, complete it and submit the click button and submit it. So until then, be safe children. Bye bye.